The day Helena Rutherford turned 18, her stepmother told her she would never be more than a burden, and 6 years later, those words still echoed in her mind as she scrubbed the floors of the general store in Florissant, Colorado. Her hands raw and her spirit worn thin from years of being reminded that she was not enough. It was 1878, and the small mining town nestled in the shadow of Pikes Peak had seen better days. The silver boom that had brought prosperity was starting to fade, and with it, the hope that had once filled the streets. Helena had arrived in Florissant 3 months ago, fleeing a situation back in Kansas City that had left her with nothing but the clothes on her back and a carpet bag filled with a few threadbare dresses. The store owner, Mrs. Garrett, had taken pity on her and given her work in exchange for a small room above the store and enough wages to eat once a day. Helena pushed a strand of dark brown hair from her face, leaving a smudge of dirt on her cheek. At 24, she should have been married with children by now. At least that was what everyone told her. But who would want a woman with no family, no dowry, and a past shadowed by rejection? Her father had remarried when she was 12, and his new wife had made it abundantly clear that Helena was an inconvenience. Every mistake was magnified, every achievement dismissed. When her father died 4 years ago, her stepmother had wasted no time in making Helena's life unbearable, constantly reminding her that she was not pretty enough, not skilled enough, not worthy of love or happiness. Those words had burrowed deep into Helena's heart, creating walls she did not know how to tear down. She had learned to make herself small, to expect nothing, to believe that perhaps her stepmother had been right all along. The bell above the store door chimed, and Helena glanced up from her work to see a tall figure silhouetted against the afternoon sun. She squinted, trying to make out the features of the man who had just entered. He removed his hat, revealing sandy brown hair that fell just past his collar and eyes the color of summer sky that swept the store before landing on her. "Afternoon," he said, his voice deep and warm like honey. "Is Mrs. Garrett about?" Helena scrambled to her feet, wiping her hands on her apron. "She went to Denver for supplies. She will be back tomorrow evening." The man nodded, turning his hat in his hands. Up close, Helena could see he was young, probably around her age, with a strong jaw covered in a day's worth of stubble and a lean, muscular build that spoke of hard work. He wore typical ranch clothing, dusty from riding, and there was something about the way he carried himself that suggested both confidence and kindness. "I was hoping to settle my account today," he said. "Been working cattle for the last 2 months and have not had a chance to get into town." "I can help you with that," Helena said quietly, moving behind the counter. She pulled out the ledger book, grateful that Mrs. Garrett had shown her the system. "What name?" "Yates Quinlan." Helena's fingers traced down the entries until she found his name. "You owe $14.30. Yates reached into his pocket and pulled out a small leather pouch, counting out the money carefully before placing it on the counter. As Helena made the notation in the ledger, she could feel his eyes on her, not in an uncomfortable way but with a curiosity that made her self-conscious. "You are new in town," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir, I have been here about 3 months. Yates is fine." "No need for formalities." He paused, then added, "Welcome to Florissant, Miss Rutherford, Helena Rutherford." "Well, Miss Rutherford, if you need anything, my family's ranch is about 5 miles north of town, the Quinlan Ranch. We have been here since '68. Helena nodded, unsure how to respond to such kindness. She was not accustomed to it. "Thank you." Yates seemed to sense her discomfort and did not push further. He placed his hat back on his head, tipping it slightly in her direction. "Good day, Miss Rutherford." After he left, Helena found herself thinking about him far more than she should. There had been something different about Yates Quinlan, something that made her feel seen rather than invisible. But she quickly pushed those thoughts away. Men like him did not notice women like her, not really. He was probably just being polite. The next few weeks passed in their usual routine. Helena worked from dawn until well after dark, cleaning, stocking shelves, and helping customers. Mrs. Garrett was not unkind, but she was practical and expected value for the wages she paid. Helena did not mind the hard work. It kept her hands busy and her mind occupied, leaving less time to dwell on the loneliness that seemed to follow her everywhere. It was a Thursday afternoon when Yates returned to the store. This time he actually needed supplies: coffee, sugar, flour, and a new bridle for his horse. Helena gathered the items, acutely aware of his presence as he waited patiently by the counter. "How are you settling in?" he asked as she wrapped the goods in brown paper. "Well enough, thank you." Florissant is a good town, though it can be lonely if you do not know folks. There is a social at the church on Saturday, dancing and supper. You should come. Helena's hand stilled. "I do not think that would be appropriate." "Why not?" "Because no one would want to dance with me," she thought. "Because I would just be standing against the wall, watching everyone else have a good time, being reminded once again that I do not belong." But she could not say that aloud. "I have work to do," she said instead. "Mrs. Garrett closes the store on Saturdays at 4, Yates said gently. "I have known her my whole life. She would want you to go." Helena met his eyes then, searching for any sign of mockery or pity, but found only genuine warmth. "I will think about it." That seemed to satisfy him. He paid for his supplies and left with another tip of his hat, and Helena was left standing behind the counter, her heart doing strange things in her chest. Saturday arrived too quickly. Helena had convinced herself a dozen times that she would not go to the social, that it was foolish to even consider it. But when Mrs. Garrett closed the store that afternoon and mentioned that she would be attending the gathering, something inside Helena shifted. "You should come along, Mrs. Garrett said, adjusting her bonnet in the small mirror by the door. "You have been working yourself to the bone since you arrived. A bit of fun would do you good." "I do not have anything suitable to wear." Mrs. Garrett looked her up and down thoughtfully. "My daughter left some dresses here before she moved to San Francisco. You are about her size. Go upstairs and look in the trunk by the window. Pick whichever one you like." Before Helena could protest, Mrs. Garrett was shooing her up the stairs. The trunk was exactly where she had said, filled with dresses far nicer than anything Helena had owned in years. She pulled out a modest blue cotton dress with small white flowers embroidered on the collar. It was simple but clean and pretty, and when she tried it on, it fit perfectly. Looking at herself in the small mirror, Helena barely recognized the woman staring back. With her hair pinned up and wearing a dress that actually fit her properly, she looked almost presentable, almost like someone who belonged at a social gathering. But doubt crept in quickly. What was she thinking? She would go to the church, feel out of place, and come back to her small room more miserable than before. Still, she found herself walking alongside Mrs. Garrett toward the small white church at the edge of town. Music drifted from the open doors, and lanterns had been strung up outside, creating a warm, inviting glow in the fading daylight. People milled about, laughing and talking, and Helena's steps slowed as anxiety gripped her chest. "Go on," Mrs. Garrett encouraged. "I see some friends I need to talk to, but you go enjoy yourself." Left alone, Helena hovered near the entrance, trying to decide if she could slip away without being noticed. That was when she saw him. Yates stood near the refreshment table, talking with a group of men. He had cleaned up since she had seen him last, wearing dark pants and a clean white shirt that made his broad shoulders even more apparent. His hair was still slightly damp, suggesting he had bathed recently, and when he laughed at something one of the men said, Helena felt that strange flutter in her chest again. As if sensing her gaze, Yates looked up, and his eyes found hers across the crowded room. His face lit up with a smile that seemed entirely too bright for someone like her, and before she could retreat, he was walking toward her. "Miss Rutherford, you came," he said, sounding genuinely pleased. "Mrs. Garrett encouraged me." "Well, I am glad she did. You look lovely." Helena felt heat rise to her cheeks. She was not used to compliments, did not know how to accept them without immediately doubting their sincerity. "Thank you. Would you like some lemonade? Mrs. Patterson makes the best in the county." Before she could respond, a woman's voice cut through the air. "Yates Quinlan, there you are. I have been looking everywhere for you." Helena turned to see a beautiful blonde woman in an elaborate green dress making her way toward them. She was petite and curvy, with the kind of confidence that came from knowing you were admired. She linked her arm through Yates's without invitation, smiling up at him in a way that made Helena's stomach clench. "Cynthia," Yates said, and Helena detected a note of resignation in his voice. "Good evening. You promised me the first dance, remember?" Cynthia's eyes flicked to Helena briefly, dismissing her in an instant before returning to Yates. "Come on, they are starting a waltz." "Actually, I was just about to ask Miss Rutherford." "Oh, I am sure she will not mind," Cynthia interrupted, already pulling Yates toward the dance floor. "We will be right back." Helena watched them go, feeling foolish for having come at all. Of course, Yates had other obligations, other women far more suitable than her vying for his attention. Cynthia was exactly the type of woman a successful rancher should be courting: beautiful, well-dressed, confident. Everything Helena was not. She turned to leave, but a gentle hand on her arm stopped her. "Do not let Cynthia chase you off," an older woman said kindly. "She thinks she has a claim on every eligible man in town, but Yates has never shown her much interest." Helena looked at the woman, recognizing her as Mrs. Patterson, the minister's wife. "I should go anyway. I do not really belong here." "Nonsense. Everyone belongs here. That is the whole point of a social." Mrs. Patterson squeezed her arm. "Give it a chance, dear. You might be surprised." Against her better judgment, Helena stayed. She accepted a glass of lemonade and positioned herself near the wall, watching the dancers spin around the floor. Yates and Cynthia made a striking couple, she had to admit. Cynthia was animated and flirtatious, laughing and touching Yates's arm at every opportunity. But Yates himself seemed distracted, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on Helena. When the dance ended, Cynthia tried to hold on to him, but Yates gently extricated himself and walked directly toward Helena. Cynthia's expression darkened as she watched him go. "I apologize for that," Yates said when he reached Helena's side. "Cynthia can be rather persistent. You do not owe me an apology. She is very beautiful. Beauty is not everything." Yates held out his hand. "Will you dance with me, Miss Rutherford?" Helena stared at his outstretched hand, her heart pounding. "I am not very good at dancing." "Neither am I, to be honest. We will stumble through it together." There was something so earnest in his expression that Helena found herself placing her hand in his before she could talk herself out of it. His palm was warm and calloused against hers, and as he led her to the dance floor, she felt both terrified and exhilarated. The music started, a simple waltz, and Yates placed his other hand gently on her waist. Helena tried to remember the steps she had learned as a girl, before her father had died and everything had fallen apart. She stepped on Yates's foot almost immediately, mortification flooding through her. "I am so sorry," she gasped, trying to pull away, but Yates just laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "I told you I was not good at this either. See, we are perfectly matched." They continued dancing. And gradually, Helena relaxed enough to actually enjoy the sensation of moving to the music, of being held by someone who seemed to genuinely want to hold her. Yates was not the most graceful dancer, but there was something charming about the way he concentrated on the steps, his brow furrowed slightly as he counted under his breath. "You are thinking too hard," Helena said without thinking, then immediately regretted her boldness. But Yates grinned down at her. "You are absolutely right. My mother used to tell me the same thing." He loosened his grip slightly, moving more naturally, and Helena found it easier to follow his lead. They danced through 2 more songs, and with each one, Helena felt something inside her begin to thaw. Yates talked while they danced, telling her about his ranch, his family, his hopes to expand their cattle operation. He asked her questions too, seeming genuinely interested in her answers, though she kept them vague, not ready to share the painful details of her past. "Would you like to get some air?" Yates asked after the 3rd dance. "It is getting warm in here." They stepped outside into the cool evening air, and Helena took a deep breath, grateful for the space and the quiet. Other couples milled about, but Yates led her away from the crowd, toward a bench beneath a large cottonwood tree. "Thank you for dancing with me," Helena said once they were seated. "You did not have to. I wanted to," Yates said simply. "I have been hoping you would come tonight." Helena looked at him in surprise. "Why?" "Because I have been thinking about you since the day we met." He said it so matter-of-factly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "There is something about you, Helena. May I call you Helena?" "Yes," she whispered, her throat tight. "There is a sadness in your eyes," Yates continued, "but also a strength. I would like to get to know you better if you would let me." Helena's first instinct was to refuse, to protect herself from inevitable disappointment. But sitting there in the moonlight, with Yates looking at her like she mattered, like she was worth knowing, something in her rebelled against the voice in her head that said she was not enough. "I would like that," she heard herself say. Yates's smile was brilliant. "Good. Then perhaps you would allow me to call on you properly, take you for a buggy ride next Sunday after church." "Yes," Helena said again, and this time she managed a small smile of her own. They talked for a while longer about simple things, easy things. Yates told her about growing up on the ranch, about his younger sister who had married a banker in Denver, about his parents who had built their life here from nothing. Helena found herself sharing bits and pieces of her own story, though she left out the worst parts, the words that still haunted her. When they finally returned to the social, Cynthia was waiting, her eyes narrowed. "There you are, Yates. I thought you had abandoned me entirely." "Just getting some air," Yates said politely but firmly. "If you will excuse us." He escorted Helena back inside, staying by her side for the rest of the evening. They danced a few more times, and Helena was aware of the whispers, the curious and sometimes hostile glances from other women. She tried not to let it bother her, tried to focus on the feel of Yates's hand in hers, and the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. When the social ended, Yates insisted on walking Helena back to the general store, even though it was only a short distance. Mrs. Garrett had already gone home, leaving Helena to enter through the back door that led to her upstairs room. "Thank you for tonight," Helena said, standing in the alley behind the store. "It was more than I expected." "It was perfect," Yates said. "I will see you Sunday." "Yes, Sunday." He tipped his hat, but lingered for a moment as if there was something more he wanted to say. Finally, he simply smiled and said, "Good night, Helena." "Good night, Yates." Helena watched him walk away, her heart full in a way it had not been in years. As she climbed the stairs to her small room, she allowed herself a moment of hope, fragile and tentative, but real nonetheless. The next few days passed in a blur. Helena found herself watching the door of the general store, hoping Yates might stop by, even though she knew he had no reason to. Sunday seemed impossibly far away. Mrs. Garrett noticed the change in her, the way she hummed while she worked, the small smile that played at her lips. "Yates Quinlan is a good man," Mrs. Garrett said on Friday afternoon as they unpacked a shipment of canned goods. "His family is well respected. They treat their ranch hands fairly and always pay their bills on time." Helena felt her cheeks warm. "He is just being kind." "He is being interested," Mrs. Garrett corrected, "and there is nothing wrong with that. You deserve some happiness, Helena. You work hard and ask for nothing. Let yourself enjoy this." But even as Mrs. Garrett's words bolstered her, doubt crept in. What would happen when Yates really got to know her? When he learned about her past, about the way her own family had rejected her? When he realized she had nothing to offer him? No dowry, no connections, no special skills or talents. Sunday arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. Helena wore the blue dress again, having nothing else suitable, and made her way to the church for the morning service. She spotted Yates immediately, sitting with an older couple who must have been his parents. He caught her eye and smiled, gesturing to the empty space beside him. Helena hesitated. Sitting with him in church was a public declaration of sorts, an acknowledgement that there was something between them. But Yates's expression was so hopeful, so genuine, that she found herself walking down the aisle and sliding into the pew beside him. "Good morning," he whispered as the service began. "Good morning." Helena tried to focus on the minister's sermon, but she was acutely aware of Yates's presence beside her, the way their arms almost touched, the way he shared his hymnal with her when they stood to sing. After the service, Yates introduced her to his parents. "Ma, Pa, this is Helena Rutherford." "Helena, these are my parents, Josephine and William Quinlan." Josephine was a handsome woman in her early 50s, with kind eyes and salt and pepper hair pinned neatly beneath her bonnet. William was tall and lean like his son, with weathered skin and a firm handshake. They both greeted Helena warmly, and if they were curious about her background, they were too polite to ask. "Yates mentioned he was taking you for a ride today," Josephine said. "You will have to come to the ranch for supper sometime soon. I would love to get to know you better." "Thank you, Mrs. Quinlan. That is very kind. Call me Josephine, dear. We do not stand on formality much out here." After saying goodbye to his parents, Yates led Helena to where his buggy was waiting. It was a simple two-seater but clean and well-maintained. He helped her up, his hands steady on her waist, and then climbed up beside her, taking the reins. They drove out of town, heading toward the mountains that loomed in the distance. The landscape was beautiful, with golden grass waving in the breeze and wildflowers dotting the hillsides. Yates pointed out landmarks as they went, telling her about the area, about the harsh winters and the sudden summer storms that could blow up in minutes. "It is not an easy life out here," he said as they followed a narrow road alongside a creek. "But it is a good one. There is freedom in it, in building something with your own hands." "Your parents seem very kind," Helena said. "They are. They have always worked hard and treated people fairly. When they first came to Colorado, they had nothing but a wagon and a dream. Now we have one of the largest ranches in the area." He glanced at her. "What about your family?" Helena had known the question was coming, but she still was not prepared for it. "My mother died when I was young. My father remarried and then he passed away 4 years ago. I am sorry." "That must have been difficult." "It was." Helena paused, debating how much to share. "My stepmother and I did not get along well. She made it clear that I was not welcome in her home once my father was gone, so I left." Yates was quiet for a moment, processing this. "That was cruel of her. She told me many things. That I was not good enough, that I would never amount to anything, that no man would ever want me." The words tumbled out before Helena could stop them, revealing more than she had intended. Yates pulled the buggy to a stop beneath a stand of pine trees. He turned to face her, his expression serious. "Helena, look at me." She did, reluctantly, expecting to see pity in his eyes. But instead she saw anger not directed at her but on her behalf. "Those words were lies," he said firmly. "Every single one of them. You are good enough. You are more than good enough. And as for no man wanting you, well, that is the biggest lie of all, because I want to know you. I want to spend time with you. I want to see where this goes between us." Tears pricked Helena's eyes. "You do not really know me." "Then let me," Yates said, reaching out to take her hand. "Let me know you. The real you, not the person your stepmother tried to convince you that you were." Helena looked down at their joined hands, at the way his thumb traced gentle circles on her palm. "I do not know if I can. I do not know if I even know who that person is anymore. Then we will figure it out together." It was such a simple statement, but it held so much promise, so much hope. Helena found herself squeezing his hand, holding on like it was a lifeline. They sat there for a long time, talking. Helena told him more about her childhood before her father remarried, about her mother who had loved flowers and music, about the small moments of happiness before everything fell apart. Yates listened without judgment, without trying to fix anything, just being present with her in her pain. In turn, he shared his own struggles. "People look at the ranch and see success," he said. "But they do not see the years of drought, the cattle we lost to disease, the times my parents went without so they could pay the ranch hands. Success is not just handed to you. It is built on failure and perseverance and refusing to give up even when everything seems impossible." "Is that what you want?" Helena asked. "To continue building the ranch?" "It is what I have always known," Yates said thoughtfully. "But yes, I want to make it something even greater. I want to have a family someday, children who can grow up with the freedom and opportunity that this land provides. I want to build a life that matters." "That sounds wonderful." "What do you want, Helena?" No one had ever asked her that before. Helena thought about it, really thought about it, trying to push past all the voices that told her she did not deserve to want anything. "I want to belong somewhere," she said finally. "I want to feel like I matter, like my presence makes a difference. I want to wake up in the morning and not feel like I am just surviving, but actually living." "You do matter," Yates said. "You matter to Mrs. Garrett, who talks about how you have made her life easier. You matter to me, even though we have only known each other a short time. You matter, Helena, just by being you." Helena wanted to believe him, wanted to let his words sink into the wounded places in her heart, but years of conditioning could not be undone in a single afternoon. Still, sitting beside Yates in that buggy, surrounded by the beauty of the Colorado wilderness, she felt something shift inside her, a tiny crack in the walls she had built around herself. They drove for another hour, following the creek up into the foothills. Yates stopped at a meadow filled with purple and yellow wildflowers, and they walked together, Helena gathering a small bouquet while Yates pointed out different plants and told her about their uses. He was surprisingly knowledgeable, explaining which ones were medicinal and which ones the cattle avoided. "My mother taught me," he explained. "She learned from the Ute people who were here before us. They knew this land in a way we are still learning." As the afternoon waned, Yates reluctantly turned the buggy back toward town. "I wish we could stay out here forever," he said, "but I promise to have you back before dark." "Thank you for today," Helena said. "It was the most peaceful afternoon I have had in a long time." "Then we will have to do it again. Next Sunday." "Yes, next Sunday." When they reached the general store, Yates helped Helena down from the buggy, his hands lingering on her waist a moment longer than necessary. "I meant what I said earlier," he told her. "You matter, Helena." Do not let anyone, including yourself, convince you otherwise." Helena nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She watched him drive away, then climbed the stairs to her room where she put the wildflowers in a glass of water and sat by the window, replaying every moment of the day in her mind. The following weeks established a pattern. Yates came to town regularly, always making time to stop by the general store. Sometimes he had legitimate business, but often he came just to see Helena, to talk for a few minutes, to make her smile. On Sundays, they went for drives, exploring the countryside around Florissant, getting to know each other in the quiet spaces between words. Helena found herself changing, slowly but surely. The ever-present heaviness that had weighed on her for years began to lift. She laughed more, smiled more, allowed herself to hope for things she had thought were impossible. Yates had a way of drawing her out, of making her feel safe enough to be vulnerable, but not everyone was happy about their growing relationship. Cynthia made her disapproval known at every opportunity, making snide comments when their paths crossed. Other women in town gossiped, speculating about Helena's past, and questioning what a successful rancher like Yates saw in a store clerk with no family or connections. Helena tried not to let it bother her, but the old doubts crept in. She was sitting in her room one evening, mending a dress by lamplight, when Mrs. Garrett knocked on her door. "May I come in, dear?" "Of course." Mrs. Garrett settled into the room's single chair with a sigh. "I have been hearing talk in town." Helena's hand stilled. "About me and Yates." "Yes, some of it is just idle gossip, but some of it is more malicious. I wanted you to hear it from me rather than through the rumor mill." Mrs. Garrett leaned forward. "Cynthia and her mother have been telling people that you are after Yates's money, that you have nothing to offer him but a pretty face and a sad story." Pain lanced through Helena's chest. Maybe they are right. Maybe I am being selfish, letting him court me when I have nothing to bring to a marriage. "Now you listen to me, Helena Rutherford," Mrs. Garrett said firmly. "Your worth is not determined by what you own or who your family is. You are a good, hard-working, honest woman. That is more than can be said for most of the society ladies in this town. Yates is a smart man. He sees your value, even if you are still learning to see it yourself. But what if I disappoint him? What if he realizes he made a mistake? What if you make him the happiest man in Colorado, Mrs. Garrett countered. "You cannot live your life in fear of what might go wrong. Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith." Helena wanted to believe her, but the voices from her past were loud in her head. She thought about her stepmother's words, about all the ways she had been told she was lacking. How could she overcome years of conditioning that had convinced her she was worthless? The next Sunday, Yates arrived to pick her up as usual, but Helena was quiet, withdrawn. He noticed immediately. "What is wrong?" he asked once they were out of town. "People are talking about us," Helena said. "About me? Let them talk. They are saying I am after your money, that I am not good enough for you." She took a shaky breath. "Maybe they are right. Maybe you should be courting someone like Cynthia, someone who comes from a good family, someone who can bring something to a marriage besides a broken past." Yates pulled the buggy to a stop, turning to face her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Helena, I do not want Cynthia. I do not want any of those other women. I want you." "But why?" The question burst from her, raw and desperate. "Why would you want someone like me?" "Because when I am with you, I feel like I can be myself. Because you listen when I talk and you actually care about what I say. Because you are kind and brave and stronger than you give yourself credit for. Because when you smile, which you do not do nearly enough, it lights up my entire day." He reached out and cupped her face gently. "Because I am falling in love with you, Helena. Not with what you can give me or what family you come from, but with who you are." Helena's eyes filled with tears. I do not know how to believe that. Then let me prove it to you. Every single day, for as long as it takes, I will prove it to you." He pulled her into his arms, and Helena allowed herself to be held, to draw strength from his solid presence. They sat there for a long time, Helena crying out years of hurt and rejection while Yates held her, murmuring words of comfort and reassurance. "I have an idea," Yates said eventually. "Come to the ranch for supper. Meet my family properly. Let them show you what I see." Helena pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I am not sure I am ready for that. You are more ready than you think. My mother has been asking about you constantly. She wants to meet the woman who has captured my attention so completely." Despite her anxiety, Helena found herself agreeing. The following Sunday, instead of their usual buggy ride, Yates drove her to the Quinlan ranch. It was larger than she had imagined, with a sprawling main house, several barns and corrals filled with horses and cattle. The house itself was 2 stories, built from sturdy timber with a wide porch that wrapped around the front. Josephine came out to greet them before they even reached the door, wiping her hands on her apron. "Helena, I am so glad you could come. I have been looking forward to this all week." Helena felt some of her anxiety ease at the genuine warmth in Josephine's greeting. Inside, the house was comfortable and lived in, with handmade furniture and colorful rugs on the wooden floors. The smell of roasting beef and fresh bread filled the air, making Helena's mouth water. William came in from the barn, washing up at the basin by the back door before joining them. "Good to see you again, Helena. Yates has talked about nothing but you for weeks." "Pa," Yates said, a flush creeping up his neck. Josephine laughed. "He is not exaggerating. Now, Helena, come help me in the kitchen. I want to hear all about you." Helena followed Josephine, grateful for something to do with her hands. As they worked together preparing vegetables and setting the table, Josephine asked about her life with genuine interest. Helena found herself opening up more than she had expected, sharing details about her childhood, her mother's death, her difficult relationship with her stepmother. "That must have been so hard," Josephine said sympathetically. "To lose your mother so young and then to have someone step in who did not love you as she should have. But you survived it, Helena. You made your way here and built a life for yourself. That takes tremendous courage." "I do not feel courageous," Helena admitted. "Most of the time I feel like I am pretending to be someone I am not." "We all feel that way sometimes," Josephine said, pausing in her work to look at Helena directly. "When William and I came to Colorado, I was terrified. I had grown up in a city, and suddenly I was living in a tent on an empty prairie, trying to cook over an open fire and dealing with weather and animals and isolation like I had never known. I cried myself to sleep many nights, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. What changed?" Helena asked. "I realized that courage is not about never being afraid. It is about doing what needs to be done even when you are terrified. It is about choosing to believe in yourself and in the people who love you, even when doubt is screaming in your ear." She reached out and squeezed Helena's hand. "Yates is a good judge of character. If he sees something special in you, it is there. You just need to see it too." Supper was a warm, lively affair. William told stories about the early days of the ranch, making everyone laugh with his tales of mishaps and misadventures. Yates added his own stories, and Helena found herself relaxing, even contributing a few stories of her own. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt like she was part of something, like she belonged. After the meal, Yates took Helena outside to show her around the ranch. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. They walked through the barn where Yates introduced her to his favorite horse, a bay mare named Willow. "She is beautiful," Helena said, stroking the mare's soft nose. "She is gentle, too. I could teach you to ride if you would like." "I would like that." They walked out to a small hill behind the barn that overlooked the ranch and the valley beyond. The mountains rose in the distance, their peaks still capped with snow despite it being summer. "This is my favorite spot," Yates said. "I come here when I need to think, when I need to remember why I work so hard. Look at all of this, Helena. This land, this sky, this freedom. It is all here for the taking if you are brave enough to reach for it." Helena looked at the view, then at Yates. "I think I am starting to understand what you mean." "Good." He took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "Because I want to share it all with you. I know it has only been a couple of months and maybe it is too soon to say this, but I love you, Helena. I love you for who you are right now, and for who you are becoming. I love the way you are learning to believe in yourself. I love your strength and your kindness and your hope, even when you think you do not have any. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that you are more than enough. You are everything." Helena's heart felt like it might burst. "Yates, you do not have to say anything right now," he said quickly. "I just needed you to know, I needed you to hear it." But Helena shook her head. "No, I want to say it. I love you too. I think I have been falling in love with you since that first day in the store, but I was too scared to admit it, even to myself. You make me feel like I matter, like I am worth something. You make me want to be brave." Yates pulled her close, and for a long moment they just stood there, holding each other as the sun set behind them. Then Yates tilted her chin up, giving her plenty of time to pull away if she wanted to. But Helena did not want to. She rose on her toes and met him halfway, their lips coming together in a gentle, tentative kiss that quickly deepened into something more. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. "I have been wanting to do that for weeks," Yates admitted. "So have I." They stayed on the hill until the stars came out, talking and planning and dreaming about the future. When Yates finally drove Helena back to town, she felt like a different person than the one who had arrived in Florissant months ago. She was still scared, still struggled with doubt, but she also had something she had never had before, hope that was backed by genuine love. The next few months were the happiest of Helena's life. She and Yates saw each other as often as possible. He taught her to ride, and they spent Sunday afternoons exploring the countryside on horseback. Helena grew stronger and more confident, both physically and emotionally. She learned to rope a steer, to mend fences, to read the weather. Josephine taught her recipes and ranching skills, treating her like the daughter she had always wanted. But as Helena's happiness grew, so did the resentment of certain people in town. Cynthia in particular seemed determined to drive a wedge between Helena and Yates. She made a point of intercepting Yates whenever he came to town, always finding some excuse to touch his arm or laugh at his comments. She spread rumors about Helena, suggesting that she had a scandalous past, that she was not what she seemed. Helena tried to ignore it, but one afternoon in early October, things came to a head. She was sweeping the front porch of the general store when Cynthia approached, her beautiful face twisted with malice. "You think you have won, do you not?" Cynthia said without preamble. Helena set the broom aside. "I am not competing with you, Cynthia." "Oh, but you are. You are taking what should be mine. Yates and I have known each other since we were children. Everyone expected us to marry. Then you show up out of nowhere with your tragic story and your false modesty, and suddenly he cannot see straight. Yates can make his own choices." "He is making a mistake." Cynthia's voice rose. "You are nobody, Helena. You have nothing to offer him. No family, no money, no reputation. What happens when he realizes that? When he gets tired of your helpless act and wants a real woman?" The words hit every insecurity Helena had been trying to overcome. For a moment, She was back in her stepmother's house, being told over and over that she was worthless. But then she thought about Yates, about the way he looked at her, the way he believed in her. She thought about Josephine's words, "Courage is about doing what needs to be done even when you are terrified." Helena straightened her spine and looked Cynthia directly in the eye. "I am sorry you feel that way. But Yates loves me and I love him. What we have is real and nothing you say is going to change that. I am done letting people like you make me feel small. I know my worth now, and it is not determined by my past or my circumstances. It is determined by who I choose to be, and I choose to be someone who believes in love and hope and second chances." Cynthia's face flushed an angry red. "You will regret this. You will see that I am right. Maybe I will, maybe I will not, but at least I will have tried. At least I will have had the courage to reach for happiness instead of tearing others down out of jealousy." Cynthia turned on her heel and stalked away, leaving Helena standing on the porch, her heart pounding but her head held high. Mrs. Garrett appeared in the doorway. "I heard all of that," she said. "You handled it perfectly, Helena. I am proud of you." "Thank you," Helena said, surprised to find that she actually felt proud of herself too. That evening, Yates came to town earlier than expected. "I heard there was an altercation with Cynthia," he said as soon as he found Helena. "News travels fast. This is a small town. Are you all right?" Helena smiled, a genuine, confident smile. "Yes, I am. I stood up for myself for us, and it felt good." Yates pulled her into a hug. "That is my girl. I am sorry you had to deal with that, but I am so proud of how you handled it." She said, "I have nothing to offer you." "She is wrong. You offer me everything that matters. You offer me love and partnership and a future I actually want to live." He pulled back, looking at her seriously. "In fact, there is something I have been wanting to ask you, and after hearing about today, I realize there is no point in waiting." Helena's breath caught as Yates reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. He opened it to reveal a simple gold band with a small diamond. "It was my grandmother's," he said. "She gave it to my mother when they left Ohio to come west, and my mother gave it to me 6 months ago, saying she had a feeling I would be needing it soon." "Helena Rutherford, I love you more than I ever thought it was possible to love another person. You make me want to be better, to do more, to build a life that is worthy of you. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you how much you matter?" Tears streamed down Helena's face, but for once they were tears of joy. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you." Yates slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed her, right there in the middle of the street, not caring who saw or what they thought. Helena kissed him back, pouring all of her love and gratitude and hope into that kiss. They were married 6 weeks later, in the same church where they had attended that first social. It was a small ceremony, attended by Yates's parents, Mrs. Garrett, and a handful of friends from town. Helena wore a new dress that Josephine had helped her make, a beautiful ivory creation with lace at the collar and cuffs. She felt beautiful and loved, and for the first time in her life, truly enough. Yates wore his best suit, and when Helena walked down the aisle toward him, the look on his face took her breath away. There was so much love and pride and joy in his eyes that she had to blink back tears. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt. When they exchanged vows, Helena's voice was steady and sure. "I promise to love you, to trust you, to believe in myself because you believe in me. I promise to build a life with you, to be your partner in all things, to face whatever comes with courage and hope." Yates's vows were equally moving. "I promise to cherish you, to protect you, to remind you every single day that you are more than enough. I promise to build you up when the world tries to tear you down, to be your safe harbor in every storm. I promise to love you, Helena, for all of my days." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Yates kissed her gently, then whispered, "I love you, Mrs. Quinlan." "I love you too," Helena whispered back, marveling at the sound of her new name. The reception was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and enough food to feed twice the number of guests. It was a joyful, raucous celebration. William made a toast that had everyone laughing and crying, and Josephine pulled Helena aside to tell her how happy she was to have her as a daughter. As the sun set and lanterns were lit, Yates led Helena in a dance, just like that first night at the social. But everything was different now. Helena was no longer the uncertain, broken woman who had doubted her own worth. She was a wife, a partner, a woman who knew she was loved. "What are you thinking about?" Yates asked as they swayed to the music. "About how much has changed. About how different I feel from the person who arrived in Florissant almost a year ago." "You are still you," Yates said. "You have always been this strong, this brave. I just helped you see it." "You did more than that. You saved me." "No," Yates said firmly. "You saved yourself. I just loved you while you did it." Helena realized he was right. Yates had given her the space and safety to heal, but the actual healing had been her choice. She had chosen to believe in herself, to push past the voices that told her she was not enough, to reach for happiness even when it scared her. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. Thank you for choosing me, for trusting me, for giving me the honor of being your husband." They danced until the stars came out, surrounded by family and friends, building the foundation of the life they would share. Helena moved into the ranch house, into the room Yates had prepared for them on the second floor. It was larger than any space she had ever lived in, with a big bed covered in a beautiful quilt Josephine had made, a wardrobe for their clothes, and a window that overlooked the valley. But more than the physical space, what struck Helena was the sense of belonging. This was her home now. She was not a guest, or an employee, or a burden. She was family. The first few months of marriage were an adjustment. Helena had to learn the rhythms of ranch life, the early mornings and late evenings, the constant work that came with managing livestock and land. But she threw herself into it, determined to be a true partner to Yates. Josephine taught her everything she knew, and slowly Helena became proficient at tasks she had never imagined herself doing. Cooking for a crew of ranch hands, preserving food for the winter, treating sick animals, managing the household accounts. Yates was patient and supportive, never making her feel inadequate when she struggled. He praised her successes and helped her learn from her failures. They worked side by side during the day and fell into each other's arms at night, their love deepening with each passing week. In the spring of 1879, Helena discovered she was pregnant. She was both thrilled and terrified, worried that she would not be a good mother, that the wounds from her own childhood would somehow damage her child. But Yates was overjoyed, and his confidence helped calm her fears. "You are going to be an amazing mother," he told her, his hand resting gently on her still flat stomach. "You have so much love to give. This baby is lucky to have you." Josephine was equally excited, immediately beginning to prepare for her first grandchild. She helped Helena sew baby clothes and set up a nursery in one of the spare rooms. William started building a cradle, carving intricate designs into the wood. As Helena's body changed, so did her understanding of herself. She marveled at the life growing inside her, at the strength of her own body. For so long she had thought of herself as weak, as damaged goods. But pregnancy showed her a different truth. She was strong, capable of creating and nurturing life. On a cold November morning, after 18 hours of labor, Helena gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Yates was there the whole time, holding her hand, wiping her brow, telling her how strong she was, how proud he was of her. When the baby finally arrived and his lusty cries filled the room, Helena wept with relief and joy. "A son," Yates said, his voice thick with emotion as he held the tiny bundle. "Helena, we have a son." They named him Thomas William Quinlan after both of his grandfathers. He had Yates's blue eyes and Helena's dark hair, and from the moment she held him, Helena felt a fierce, protective love unlike anything she had ever experienced. "I will never let anyone make you feel like you are not enough," she whispered to her sleeping son. "I will make sure you always know you are loved, that you matter, that you have value just because you exist." Yates, overhearing, wrapped his arms around both of them. "He is blessed to have you as his mother." The first year of Thomas's life passed in a blur of sleepless nights and endless wonder. Helena had never felt more exhausted or more fulfilled. She loved being a mother, loved watching her son grow and change, loved seeing Yates transform into a devoted, playful father. The ranch continued to prosper. Yates expanded their herd and bought more land, building on the foundation his parents had established. Helena took on more responsibility, managing the household and the ranch accounts, becoming an integral part of the operation. The ranch hands respected her, and even the townspeople who had gossiped about her came to accept and admire her. Cynthia eventually married a banker from Colorado Springs and moved away, and Helena found she felt no animosity toward her, only pity that Cynthia had wasted so much energy on bitterness instead of building her own happiness. When Thomas was 2, Helena became pregnant again. This time she was less anxious, more confident in her ability to handle whatever came. She gave birth to a daughter they named Rose Josephine, a tiny, delicate thing with her father's smile and her mother's determination. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. The ranch prospered, the children grew, and Helena and Yates's love deepened with each passing year. They weathered droughts and harsh winters, cattle diseases and financial setbacks, but they faced everything together, their partnership unshakable. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Yates took Helena back to the hill where he had first told her he loved her. The children were spending the night with Josephine and William, giving them a rare evening alone. "You remember standing here that first time?" Yates asked, his arm around her waist. "How could I forget? I thought I was dreaming that someone like you could not possibly love someone like me. And now," Helena smiled, leaning into him, "now I know better. Now I know that I am worthy of love, that I always was. I just needed you to help me see it." "You have given me everything, Helena. A home, a family, a purpose. You are my partner, my love, my everything." "You proved to me that I was more than enough," Helena said, echoing the words that had become a sort of motto for their relationship. "You saw me when I was invisible, valued me when I felt worthless, loved me when I thought I was unlovable. You changed my life, Yates." "No," Yates said, turning to face her. "We changed each other's lives. That is what love does. It transforms us, makes us better, stronger, more whole." They stood there watching the sunset, just as they had 10 years before. But now they were surrounded by the evidence of the life they had built together. A thriving ranch, 2 beautiful children, a love that had weathered every storm and emerged stronger. The years continued to pass. Thomas grew into a tall, thoughtful young man who loved the ranch as much as his father did. Rose was spirited and creative, constantly bringing joy and chaos into their lives. Helena gave birth to 2 more children, another boy and another girl, filling the ranch house with laughter and noise. Helena never forgot where she came from, never forgot the pain of being told she was not enough. But she used those memories to fuel her compassion for others. She became known in Florissant as someone who would help anyone in need, who would offer a kind word or a helping hand without judgment. She hired young women who had nowhere else to go, giving them work on the ranch and a safe place to stay. She donated to the church and the school, wanting to make sure every child in their community had opportunities she had been denied. Yates watched her bloom into the woman she was always meant to be, and his love for her only grew. He never took her for granted, never stopped telling her how much she meant to him, never stopped proving through his actions that she was cherished and valued. As they grew older, they handed more responsibility for the ranch to Thomas, who managed it with the same care and integrity his father and grandparents had shown. They became grandparents, delighting in their children's children, passing on the lessons they had learned about love and perseverance and believing in yourself. One evening, when Helena was in her 60s, she sat on the porch of the ranch house watching the sunset. Yates sat beside her, his hair now silver, his face lined but still handsome. Their hands were clasped together as they had been for more than 40 years. "You ever think about how different your life would have been if you had not come to Florissant?" Yates asked. Helena considered this. "Sometimes, but I prefer to think about how my life would have been different if I had not met you. You were the first person who saw my value, who believed in me. You gave me the courage to believe in myself." "You had that courage all along," Yates insisted. "I just gave you a safe place to find it." "We saved each other," Helena said. "That is the truth of it. I needed someone to show me I was worth loving, and you needed someone to love who would be a true partner, who would build a life with you based on respect and equality and genuine affection." Yates raised her hand to his lips, kissing it gently. "I would do it all again, every moment, every challenge, every joy. You are still, after all these years, more than everything to me." Helena leaned against him, feeling the solid warmth of his presence, the steady beat of his heart. "And you are everything to me." They sat there as the sun sank below the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Around them, the ranch hummed with life. Cattle lowing in the distance, horses nickering in the corrals, grandchildren playing in the yard, the sounds of supper being prepared in the kitchen. This was the life Helena had built, the life she had never dared dream of when she was that broken young woman scrubbing floors in a general store. She had gone from being told she was not enough to knowing, with absolute certainty, that she was exactly who she was meant to be. She was a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a rancher, a pillar of her community, and most importantly, a woman who had learned to love herself. And it had all started with a cowboy who had seen her worth when she could not see it herself, who had loved her through her healing, and who continued to love her with the same intensity 40 years later. Yates had not saved her by sweeping in and fixing all her problems. He had saved her by giving her the space and support to save herself, by believing in her when she could not believe in herself, by proving day after day, year after year, that she was worthy of love. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Helena thought about all the young women out there who were where she had once been, believing the lies they had been told about their worth. She wished she could tell each of them what she had learned, that their value was not determined by what others said about them, that love could heal even the deepest wounds, that it was never too late to become who you were meant to be. She wished she could tell them that somewhere out there was someone who would see them, truly see them, and love them not despite their brokenness, but as a whole person worthy of respect and cherishing. Someone who would prove to them, as Yates had proven to her, that they were not just enough, but more than everything. But since she could not reach all those women, she did what she could. She lived her life as an example. She raised her children to value themselves and others. She helped those in need, and she loved her husband with all her heart. As she and Yates rose to go inside, Helena took one last look at the view she had loved for so many years. The land stretched out before them, beautiful and vast and full of possibility, just like the life they had built together. "Ready?" Yates asked, offering his arm. Helena took it, smiling up at him. "Always." They walked inside together, into the home they had created, surrounded by the family they had built, living the happily ever after that Helena had once thought impossible. She had been told she was not enough, but one cowboy had proven to her she was more than everything. And together, they had created a life filled with love, purpose, and joy that would echo through generations.